Happy Monday and welcome back to the LordanArts channel. I'm John Lordan. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery and the critical pieces that help solve that mystery. Today, we look into the Netherlands' coldest case. Unfortunately, murders are committed everywhere around the world by people in all walks of life. It doesn't seem to matter if you're rich or poor, anyone can wind up being a target or a victim. Today's case takes us to a small Dutch village called Egtelt in the Netherlands and starts in the early morning hours of April 18th, 1951. Gijs van Krieken and his son had almost finished making their way to his brother Melisse's house. The day before, the two had met in the town of Doetinchem and discussed their plans for the following day. They planned to go to a local market together to buy and sell cattle. In order to do this, Melisse would have to carry a large sum of money with him. The 51-year-old decided that he would take 7,000 guilders. Unfortunately, Melisse would never make it to the market that day. When Gijs and his son walked into the side yard of Melisse's house, they found him lying dead on the ground. Melisse had died only an hour before his brother and nephew found him. Police found no blood on the ground or on Melisse, but an autopsy would show that a bullet had entered his body and came to rest so close to his heart that it triggered a cardiac arrest, which ultimately ended his life. Investigators discovered that 3 bullets had been fired. When Melisse was shot, the housekeeper woke up and opened an upstairs window, calling out to find out what was going on. She heard 3 shots in total, one of which was in her direction. She would later state, "I was terrified and didn't dare leave the house. The dogs barked terribly. I looked out of the upstairs windows, but it was still dark and I couldn't see anything." Melisse's 7,000 guilders were gone, leading investigators to believe that robbery was the motive for the crime. They also found out that before Melisse came home the night before his murder, he had played cards with a group of cattle traders and farmers at a cafe in nearby Tiel. He spoke openly about his plans for the following day, and when it came time to settle his bill, he paid from his wallet, which he kept literally close to his chest. At that time, cattle traders would often secure their wallets to their chests with a small chain to keep it from being stolen. Most in the cafe saw that Melisse was carrying a large sum of money on him. At the Van Krieken house itself, investigators found a few clues. In a stall in the side yard, cigarette butts were found near a haystack, suggesting the robber hid under the stack and smoked while he watched and waited. This vantage point gave the person a good view of the yard and the door. 3 spent cartridges were found that were matched to a Fabrique Nationale pistol. These pistols were used by the Dutch in World War II and would later be also used by police and customs agents. Investigators also found the tracks of a bicycle leading away from the house. Many years later, a woman would confirm that her niece had been working as a ticket controller for the bus company Velox in Tiel at the time of the murder. When she said she bicycled into Egtelt to stay with family, she noticed that a bicycle was parked near the Van Krieken farm. It's believed that this was the murderer's bicycle. Investigators were concerned that if the case wasn't solved quickly, gossip would run rampant, making their jobs harder and possibly putting other people's lives in danger. One thing they firmly believed was that the killer lived in the community. The murderer likely knew Melisse's plans and maybe even his usual routine as well. As was feared, gossip soon gripped and took over, and anyone in the community that seemed financially sound was suspicious and the target of ridicule. One such person was the Van Krieken housekeeper, Mientje Vandenberg. After the murder, she and her husband moved to a beautiful farm. The gossipers found that interesting and continued to spread rumors about them. But were these rumors possibly true? A few years after the murder, in 1954, Mientje, her husband, father, and mother, who was Melisse's sister, were arrested and held for quite some time while they were questioned. The family was eventually cleared, and searches turned up nothing. This event left a lasting impression on the family, with Mientje's husband saying, "I have had my fill of it. You cannot understand what we've been through. I don't want to talk about it anymore." In 1965, cattle dealer Bernardus Van Hattem was accused of being involved because he had built a lavish ranch nearby. He and his family were also cleared and also very offended by what had happened. Van Hattem even went to the police and offered a reward, but not for solving the murder. He wanted anyone with knowledge of where the gossip was coming from to get the reward, 1,000 guilders. Not much happened with the case, which was clearly going cold as the decades passed. Then, in May of 2022, Arjen Patoisen was contacted. He was an agent working for the OCC, the Cold Cases Kollenborg Investigation Agency. This agency only investigates old, unsolved murder cases that occurred before 1988. A woman contacted the agency claiming that she knew who had killed Melis Van Krieken, and that guilt of the knowledge that she had was eating away at her. So she finally decided to confess to the police. Due to privacy concerns, the woman called herself Nettie, and her husband is referred to as Kay. Kay was quite a bit older than Nettie when they married. He also had a very short temper and would go off on a moment's notice. At one point, he beat a man nearly to death because he caught him looking out a window at Nettie. At the end of his life, Kay became seriously ill and told Nettie that he had something he had to confess to her. That's when he told her that he actually murdered Melis Van Krieken, which happened before he met Nettie. The night of the murder, Kay had been playing cards in the same cafe as Melis and noticed the amount of money the man carried. At this time, Kay was with his first wife and they had children. They were always short on money, so he decided to rob Melis. With several drinks in him, Kay rode his bicycle to the Van Krieken farm. Once he arrived, he hid his bike in a ditch and found the stall that overlooked the door. He then smoked and waited in near freezing temperatures. When Melis came out of the door to feed the cattle he was taking to the market that day, Kay shot him. He stated, "The first was a glancing shot. The weather was cold and my hands were cramped. The second shot was a direct hit. Melis turned and tried to flee inside, but after a few steps, he fell. Then a window opened and a woman's voice called out. That must have been the housekeeper or something. I fired a third bullet indiscriminately toward that voice." He also stated that he was glad he had missed Meech because the weight of the guilt of Melis's death was already too much for him. He went and turned Melis over and stole his wallet from around his chest and fled on his bike toward TL, throwing the gun into some water on the way. But that's when Kay made a startling, and some might say fateful, discovery. Once some distance had been put between him and the farm, he opened Melis's wallet to see how much he had taken, only to find that the bullet had entered Melis's chest through the center of his wallet, piercing all the money and rendering it useless. After Kay confessed to Nettie, he became consumed by anxiety and slept very little until he eventually passed away. When Nettie found out that people were wrongfully persecuted because of what Kay did, she agreed to have her husband's story published to finally show all those rumors were false. Thanks to Arjen and his team, the ghosts of the past can finally be put to rest, and the oldest cold case in the Netherlands is now a case cracked. While we have several sources that helped us bring today's case to you listed in the description box below, we have to thank Arjen Patoisen himself, who reached out to us to share the story of the oldest case in the Netherlands to be solved. Thank you, Arjen, and of course, thank you, Christy Arnhart, for writing up today's script. Here she is now to discuss it with us. Christy, while we had a great source to help us share this story, we definitely ran into a shortage of pictures.
We did. And we actually asked Arjen about that.
Mm-hmm.
He said that investigators were running into the same issue. Now, they couldn't even find a picture of their victim.
Wow, I know that's been the toughest thing about this. He also sent me like a description of what the person looked like, so I tried to find some images that kind of reflect that, as you guys saw in the piece. But yeah,
good deal. Well, they don't even have a picture of the killer either, but they didn't release it to anybody, and that was to protect her privacy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Because I mean, especially rumors running around this town like they seem to do. Yeah.
I'm just so glad that she stepped up and decided to end this mystery.
Definitely, definitely. I don't know if this would have been solved without her
Mm-mm,
taking that step. Despite the
mm-mm.
fact that you've got this cold case team that's working on it, but I mean, they're having trouble. Yes, we're talking about 1950s, so finding images like that's one challenge in terms of trouble. But imagine trying to find people that even know about this case at this point. I mean, this
It's crazy. I
yeah,
know.
it's pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm very thankful for Nettie's role in this.
Mhm.
Do we know if the weapon was ever found?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Arian tells us that there's a story that in 1978, someone bought and was renovating the house of a chief guard of the state police named Koss, and they said they found the gun used in the murder and the wallet with a hole in it under the floor. Now, it's just a rumor, but
Yeah, but at the state police, at someone working for the state police, like finding
yeah,
evidence in their house after the fact.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Why would someone working for the police wind up with that if the murderer was never identified? Like that almost sounds
Mhm.
like they found out who it was or something and helped in some way.
Oh, I had the same question. Luckily, we had Arian.
Yeah.
He tells us, excuse me, that in October of 2022, they received a message asking if the killer's story and the rumor about Chief Guardsman Koss couldn't both be true.
Hmm.
Maybe the wallet with the smashed money had been thrown away by the perpetrator, then found by Koss and hidden under the floor of his home. Now, the tipster knew firsthand statements from relatives of a colleague of Koss's to back up his claim.
Wow. Wow. So it
Yeah.
does seem possible. It's kind of strange with the story though, because if I remember right, he kind of ditches the gun. Well, I
Mhm.
guess he could have ditched the wallet at that point. Like if he realized, oh, the money was all damaged, he could have actually ditched it at the same location with the gun. So,
That's true. That's true.
hmm.
Now, the tip that they received made them reach out to the person who renovated the house, which, you're going to want to do.
Yeah.
He says it's all just a rumor. And he said he had suffered quite a bit from all the gossip around it. There, he had,
Again.
yeah, it's ridiculous. And this kind of gossip draws everybody. He had curious people, he had journalists. They wanted to see the spectacular development. All of the people who came in wanted to see, just look around, and they were all curious.
Right. Right.
It's just,
Like there's some kind of secret floorboard he could show them or something. This is where the gun and the wallet.
I
Oh.
know, but this is actually my favorite part. He even put a sheet up over his window that said, "No wallet found here."
Oh my God.
I know he was trying so hard.
It's just amazing to me. And honestly, I know this. I have some family that lived in a small town. The rumor mills can stir up an amazing amount of trouble for people. But this case has like several examples of it. It just keeps going on and on with this case.
I know it gets a little ridiculous, but I think that Arian and the owner of the home are now happy that the story of the murder case has finally been told, and it's put a lot of these rumors to rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a big thank you to Arian Patoisin.
Yeah.
And in the description box below, we have a link to the OCC's website, which Google Chrome actually translates pretty well into English. So you guys might want to check that out. He's got more investigative stories there, and there's more information about what's to come. As a matter of fact, in my last communication with him, he's been teasing me about his next big case break. And
Oh,
I'm sure you guys are going to hear about that in an upcoming episode of Case Cracked. So thank you again, Arian. Big thank you to you, Christy. And I've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters, Patreon supporters, everyone that supports the channel. Since 2015, we have always run limited commercial ads for the benefit of the viewers and the families that we're trying to help. Obviously, we can't do that without support. If you'd like to help, please visit LordanArts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Dr. Gunsmith recently did. We really appreciate your support on our mission to run as few ads as possible while we keep the quality as high as we can. Remember, you can get another LordanArts story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode is coming tomorrow and every Tuesday after that. Visit SeriouslyMysterious.com and subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe below and hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload. Also, if you'd like to catch one of our weekly Secret Studio live shows, be sure to check the description box below for our new channel link, LordanArts Studio 2. And of course, I'll be back with a new unsolved mystery for you on Friday, right here on the LordanArts channel.